Still works. Good morning, everyone. Let me just see how this works. Okay, perfect. Just wanted to acknowledge and say thank you for having us here, CTK Bio. It's been, I think, our third year in a row now. So without further ado, I'm Daniel Shum, Chief Operating Officer for CTK Canada, CTK Bio Canada. So who are we? We are a sustainable solutions platform. We fall under the CTK group, which stands for Cosmetic Technics Korea. They are publicly traded, and they dominate the beauty and cosmetic space. We work with multinational brands ranging from Chanel, Sephora, Lancome, L'Oreal, you name it. And what we do is we are the ODM manufacturer for these brands. We provide that A to Z service. And CTK Bio Canada is really just a subsidiary of the CTK group. So what is our mission? Fairly simple. Our mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable materials. And the pictures that you see here is our actual facility. We have a research lab, we have the manufacturing, and we're just working on some new exciting things as well. So really, what do? We work with organizations to redefine sustainability, because that term sustainability is really subjective, especially when we're looking from a global perspective. So once the organization or the business defines that term, we then work backwards to engineer materials most polluting this world. And we are pushing for bioplastics. And so you can see we start up on the top as a resin manufacturing company. We figure out what are those properties, what are those features, what is the price, what is all those variables that these organizations want in a product that makes sense, that allows them to actually make the decision to transition. From there, we then go into the manufacturing of the product, which is then networked and sourced throughout the world to make whatever products you want to make day to day. And so then from there, us consumers, we use it, and then we dispose it. Now, this is where it gets critical, because really in this space, you have to work with your downstream partners. And with our downstream partners, we have waste haulers like Czech Sami, potentially GFL, we're in the works. And then from there, we like to implement what we call a fourth bin. Because I know there's a lot of stigma around, materials getting mixed up, not being recycled, et cetera. So we generally work with our partners to have a fourth bin, and that's where all or our compostable products would go in, and then we would have a designated waste hauler to bring that fourth bin back to our recycler. Shout out to Recycling Alternatives. We'll then sort, grind, bundle, whatever they want to do with it, and then send it back to our facility for processing. And during that route, should some of our products escape through that system, that it still ends up breaking down within a reasonable time frame. And then as you can see, once it gets back to our facility, we will then reprocess it, we'll grind it, and put it back into our formulations. So these are just a few of some of our formulations in the form of resins. So we call it editions. So we have Earth Edition, Nature Edition, Light Edition. So it's interesting because it all ties into characteristics. For example, when we use cellulose acetate or cellulose, it's generally clear, we call that Light Edition. And from these resins, we then make certain products, whether it's flexible, semi-flexible, rigid, semi-rigid, etc. So generally what we do is we take biopolymers and we mix that in with additives, biomass, and these biomass can range from wheat, rice, hemp, whatever that might be. Again, helping the client tell the story, right? Maybe even incorporating their waste streams back into these formulations for their own packaging. And again, it's just really figuring out what is that story these companies want to tell and showcase. So next, really we're focusing on sustainability, again, using biomass as much as biomass waste as possible. We tend not to use PLA, and again, nothing against PLA, it's just doesn't fit within our portfolio. And then in terms of compatibility, we design our resins to actually fit into traditional infrastructure as a drop-in substitute. So when we talk to manufacturers, we'll say, it's very similar to LDPE or HDPE, and there's not much modifications they'll need within their infrastructure, just maybe tuning the parameters. And then lastly, again, we have an R&D lab to really figure out what that formula is for the specific product would then have the company transition to. We have 3 core technologies. On the right, with synthesis, we can and have synthesized our own PBF, PHA, and cellulose. A lot of what we do right now is composition because that is at commercial scale. Again, we comprising of biodegradable polymers, waste materials, and our master batch. And then lastly, our processing. Now, because processing biopolymers is generally a nightmare, within our design, we've kind of figured out how to optimize our extrusion line, et cetera, to really meet that traditional plastic. And these are just some of the credentials like TUV, ISO, ResProtect, third-party testing, all the traditional testing that you actually need. But this is probably what, and these are just some of the future plans that we have going on, FDA, CMA, BPI, et cetera. But this is really what you guys want to know. So right now, plastics market, 609 billion, expected to go up to 810. Well, for biodegradable polymers, we're looking at 12 billion to 45 billion. That's not a lot. That's really small in the grand scheme of things. And right now, where we hope is the world goes in the direction for bioplastics as opposed to against it. And so globally speaking, should legislation go in our way, we expect to go from 12 billion to about 100 billion. However, in Canada, that's not quite going the right way. Specifically because there seems to be more of a push for recyclable materials as opposed to bioplastics. And should, again, globally go in that direction, then these wouldn't be the numbers we want. Having said that, even Korea recently lifted plastic. So plastic is free range now. And so instead of going to sustainable alternatives, Korea is then now just using traditional plastic. At least that's what I was told. So where are the challenges in our day-to-day? I mean, it's on all levels, right? So resin producers, the producers that are actually synthesizing the materials, well, there's scalability, right? Because if a big company comes to us and say, hey, yeah, we want to transition, everything looks good, but can you supply enough? The answer is probably no. So that's a challenge. Second thing is product producers, which is your injection molders, blow molders, you know, the willingness to adopt. And I can tell you, because CTK has built out such a great network in Asia, we have access to any sort of manufacturing processes you can think of. In North America, there's always that hesitation. There's always that unwantingness because it could disrupt their current line or their process, and also risk having downtime. So generally speaking, it's a no. Even though we have proven with prototypes, with technical data sheets, et cetera, there is still not the willingness to try new materials. So that means adoption. Next, recyclers. Recyclers, again, willingness to adopt because of infrastructure. You know, a lot of the recyclers don't have the infrastructure to sort or to even be able to break down and clean our original, our bioplastic material. And their main thing is really the government, right, in terms of legislation. There needs to be clear legislation. That way, when it's clear, these businesses to know which direction to go in. Most of the time right now, when we talk to businesses, they're not sure which direction to go because the legislation isn't clear. So for that being said, they'll just stay with traditional plastic. In businesses, price. Price, logistics, convenience. Sustainability comes last. And if you say otherwise, then let's chat. Opportunities, I think while all those challenges, there are opportunities, right? Government and consumers, really a shift towards bioplastics, right? The greenwashing, negative stigma goes away. We go towards this direction. Next, resin producers, product producers, businesses, then there is a huge market adoption, which means increase in demand, increase in supply, decrease in cost. From there, that's when we know recyclers and waste management will follow. These are just some of the clients that we work with. And shout out to several affiliations like City of Vancouver, City of Surrey, UBC, of course, Waterloo, Western, McMaster, been really supportive on our journey. And that's pretty much it. I have Min here, my director of operations. She brought a lot of samples. If you're interested to see what kind of products that we have or what we've done in the past, feel free to come talk to me or Min or take a look at some samples. Thank you.